here. Yep, just you get settled there. Here, I'll just put on the little table right there. Yes, that is a hibiscus with honey in it, and a little bit of sugar. That's the way I like to take it, because it kind of like rounds out the flavor profile, one might say. So yeah, hope you like it. Just know that every time you're like, oh, surprise me, when I'm like, what kind of tea would you like, my friend? And you're like, oh, just surprise me, bestie. And I'm like, just know that it does take the love that I have for you, that I'm like, no, I can do this. And I make that decision for you, so you're welcome. I'm just teasing. Oh, yeah, here's my mug. See? It's the one that my husband got me. Yeah, it's the one I like a lot. I am drinking kukicha tea, which is Japanese twig tea. It is a type of twig that is, I don't know if it's only in indigenous. Does that word apply to plants or just people? I have to look this up now. Yeah, I don't know if it's only indigenous to Japan or if it's just in Japan that folks started making tea out of it originally. But it's called kukicha, Japanese twig tea, and it is delicious. I love it. I chose hibiscus for you because it was a little bit pink, and because the mermaid fan club mug it was pink, and that made me happy. So, okay, well, okay, are you sure about this? Like, I know that you said you were fine with me reading one of my little short stories that I write to you, but like, are you sure? Are you sure you don't mind? Okay, I mean, it's very nice of you. I don't tend to really share these a lot with people. I get nervous about it, a little self-conscious, if you know what I mean. So yeah, all right. I picked one of my funny ones because you know, haha, it'll be great. So here we go, and okay, yes, I'm just a little bit nervous about sharing it with you, but I'm also excited to share it with you. So see what another human thinks of my what? Oh yes, excuse me. What a fellow goblin thinks about this story. Oh yes, no, this is Sophie. Yes, I thought I introduced you to her before. Oh, well, anyway, yes, Sophie. Yeah, Sophie loves pets and cuddles. We love Sophie. She's so soft. Okay. Yes, I'm stalling. I'm worried. Okay, I will commence. Okay. Worth any act of daring. The plan suddenly made sense. This was fortunate because if William Howell III had been required to explain it one more time, he would have probably howled in frustration and upset everything. This worthy individual was known for his genius, not for his patience. In some people, these qualities are not only coincidental, but nearly equal in greatness. This was not so in the case of Howell. The extent of his cleverness was not only undermatched by the virtue of serene tolerance, it seemed to have eclipsed the other entirely. Perhaps when God made someone as brilliant as William Howell III, there just wasn't much room left for more redeeming qualities. At any rate, Cecil Marrow was finally nodding his head in pleased understanding, and George sighed in relief. An easygoing fellow, he was often required to play the role of buffer between quick-to-excess Howell and the placid Cecil. Fortunately, Howell was as keen as George on the need for Cecil to be included in the threesome's plans of daring. Howell was, without question, a genius. He could come up with a layout that would have made the old pros like Capone blink twice in admiration. He also had the social skills of an irritable badger, and tended to inspire suspicion more than anything else. George, meanwhile, was a man of intrepid resource. Let him know of a need, and he could supply it. Ask the man for ice water in the Sahara, and he could hand you a glassful. Request a battery-run yurt heater on the steppes of Siberia, and the man would hand you one from his legendary pockets. Clearly, Craig George was a fellow apart. He was the one you wanted on your side in a weekend survival contest. He was not, however, the one to turn to for a believable performance, like those so necessary in plans of Howell's invention. While George was all right with some behind-the-scenes finagling, he had a regrettable honest streak which never shone more clearly than when he was attempting to lie. And then there was Cecil, the artiste, the actor, the angelic cherub whose predictably baby blue eyes could convince you of his innocence and of your culpability for suspecting him. No enterprise of the scope which Howell could conceive might reach a happy end without a talent like Cecil's. And even then, success wasn't necessarily within easy grasp. The problem with genius, George had once remarked, though not in so many words, was that it tended to overlook obvious impediments. Even John Barrymore's modern equivalent, and a pocket conjurer, could not act but in compliance with the laws of nature and probability. Howell could never see this valid point, and consequently, his plans, brilliant in scope but almost too daring in scheme, were often doomed to failure. This time was no different. George was, unsurprisingly, able to provide the group with a collapsible shovel. Howell asked how on earth a fellow could have managed something like that to be smuggled into the big house, the trio's home away from home, as it were. George replied darkly that some questions were better left unasked, and that some sources were necessarily private, even from a crony. Only slightly offended, Howell had shaken his head in deep pride. This was a man on his own side against an unjust world, and Howell's manly chest, as always, swelled at the thought. Cecil had never appeared more convincing as the distracting innocent, commanding attention without arresting suspicion while still subverting notice from his mates. George thought the claim of a cottonmouth's intrusion into the yard was a more than admirable stroke of cleverness on Howell's part, and that Cecil was acting the part of a horrified victim to perfection. Howell grunted. It was hard for him to hear another complimented, even in concert with himself, and he told George to keep digging. While George puffed away in the shrubberies behind the wall that separated our trio from the world outside the big house, Howell stood watch and gloated. Victory would soon be his. Freedom would be gained in a matter of minutes. George would soon reach the other side of the wall, aided by his trusty miniature collapsible shovel. Howell would then cough discreetly, this being the extent of his acting ability, and Cecil would recover from his cottonmouth snake-inspired terror in quick-time marching order. Then the three cronies would be off to liberty, off to happiness, off to the great world, off to the place where Howell's old lady would be waiting with the goods, the thought of which convinced Howell that there was some justice in the world. No man with the thought of the goods that awaited Howell and his friends could think otherwise. And Howell would be reunited with his old lady, from whom he'd been parted far too long. Howell licked his lips in anticipation. His old lady was that kind of broad, a chocolate chip cookie kind of broad, if you can imagine what that means to a man with a fondness for sweet dames. And Howell had a fondness for sweet dames, the sweeter the better, and soon he'd be wrapping his arms around his own dame with colossal sweetness. Howell frowned. Something must have gone wrong. The yard guard was coming around the corner, holding an abashed Cecil firmly by one arm. Well, good afternoon, Mrs. Howell. Back from the Grand Canyon already? Yes, I am. Good trip, but better homecoming. I'm here to pick up Billy. My daughter-in-law's out shopping, so I get some grandma time. I'm picking up Craigie and Cece, too. They're having a sleepover at my son's house this weekend. I see. Well, could you let Billy's mom know that Billy got into a little trouble at recess today? He and the other members of the Unholy Alliance tried to stage a breakout again. Mrs. Howell pursed her lips, but not at the well-applied nickname for Billy and his two little friends. The boys had been doing so well lately. I'm so sorry, Miss Perkins. I can't imagine what got into them. Dale sat Billy down for a good talk after last time, and I know the other boys' parents did the same. What could have gotten into those boys? Miss Perkins grinned. I think it was more a matter of what they wanted to get into them. Billy started yelling about anything being acceptable if it was done in the name of his grandma's chocolate chip cookies, after the teacher's aide came and found he and Craigie digging in the shrubbery. You know, he has quite an impressive vocabulary for a kindergartner. I know, Mrs. Howell sighed. That smart little imp is going to be the death of us all. But you only said he and Craigie were in the shrubbery. Wasn't Cece involved? I've never known any of those boys to try a two-man escape scheme. Oh, he was involved, all right. That's what made Madison suspect one of their escape plans was afoot. Cece started screaming about a cottonmouth hiding in the grass, ready to spring. Mrs. Howell couldn't help herself and started laughing. A cottonmouth in California. Where did Billy get these ideas? What wouldn't he and his little friends come up with to get from Big's city schoolhouse to his cookie baking grandma's house? In another life, Mrs. Perkins, the older woman wheezed, in another life, I simply will not live across the street from my grandchild's school. It's just too tempting for a boy like Billy. Just too tempting.
The end. Yeah. I told you it was just a little bit silly. Did you like it? Well, yeah, I want to hear all about what you thought about it.
Huh? Oh, you need more tea. Dang. So I take it you like hibiscus. Okay. Very nice. That's good to know. Do you want more hibiscus tea, or do you want just a whole new flavor? Surprising. Of course is what you said. How could that surprise me?